good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the program. This is Financial Markets. My name is Anthony, your host. Well, the show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa. With Altex East Africa, we're saying you can do something new. And Altex says you can buy and sell shares. You can also buy and sell fixed income securities across East Africa. That is in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Of course, Zabu is the initiative under the market with the use of your phone and the USSD code and investment with mobile money. Now, today, you can be able to invest with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings mobile money from your Airtel mobile money wallet and your MTN mobile money wallet. That is by a simple dial of *292 hash. Altex East Africa is also giving you value for your money with a value chain. They do have an exchange traded fund, and now even Safaricom shares can be bought using Altex East Africa. Altex doing something new. Well, it's a Tuesday, and welcome back from Smart Means Business. Today is the 12th of September, and we delve into the business of financial markets. Across the world, markets are open, and a couple of other markets are closed. But in Uganda, the markets open at exactly 9 a.m. and close at 1 p.m. East African Standard Time. And as I speak right now, the markets are ready for trade, only waiting for you to be an investor. Now, coming up tonight on the show, we do have a couple of interesting facts about the Airtel initial public offer. Airtel Uganda is expecting to raise over 800 billion Ugandan shillings in their initial public offer, which will be closing on the 13th of October. Airtel Uganda go to open up their initial public offer on the 31st of August. And to this day, the shares are being bought, shares at as little as 100 shillings. And we are going to be seeing the details in their prospectus as well. We are still going to also invite later on this week one of the stakeholders in this initial public offer, and that is none other than the transaction advisor. We do have the broker as well, that is Crested Capital, and Airtel managers as well. We'll be inviting them over to have a conversation on how their initial public offer is doing so far and what the prospects are for the company. Airtel will be the second telecommunications company to list after MTN Uganda. But let's first have a look at the day's trade on Monday. Monday, 11th of September, saw at least over 1.5 million shares traded on the market, corresponding to a market value of close to 567.4 million Ugandan shillings. Compared with the previous day, that is Friday, the 8th of September, Monday's data shows an improvement of a decline of about 35%. And that is in the volume, and 33% decline in the turnover. Well, the market capitalization of the Uganda Securities Exchange has also slightly reduced to 16.2 trillion Ugandan shillings. And in aggregate, there are 5 equities that participated in trade, and ending the day with 3 gainers and 7 losers on the market. Bank of Baroda Uganda led the gainers with a gain of 3.33% share price appreciation, closing at 15.50 Ugandan shillings. And it was followed by Kenya Commercial Bank at a 0.1% appreciation in price, and Wumeme at 0.01% appreciation in price. Particularly, the performance of Wumeme was quite outstanding on Monday. And when you look at Wumeme, they traded 1,399,000 shares on the market, close to 1.4 million shares just on Monday, which was quite a good volume. And the price just appreciated slightly by 0.01 shillings up to 399 Ugandan shillings. Uganda Clays had 315 Ugandan shillings, rather 315 shares traded, closing the day at 14 Ugandan shillings, approximately 14, at 13.9 to be exact. Now, Stanbic Bank Uganda recorded 15,700 shares on the market and closed off the day at 29 Ugandan shillings. Stanbic is doing quite well. Talking about the 29 shillings, when you look at Stanbic at 29 shillings, it might look a meager value, but trust me, the stock has this as the highest price this year. But also, when you look even the past 4 to 5 years, the stock has this as their highest price, which is quite a very fascinating fact. MTN Uganda also traded 45,523 shares on the market. Well, the Bank of Baroda stock as well improved their trade by 50,000 volume after also appreciating by 0.50 Ugandan shillings, closing at 15.50 Ugandan shillings per share. Well, that is speaking from the perspective of the domestic listings. Cross-listed stocks did not participate in trade. Very disappointing fact there, but this is kind of what we are seeing usually on the market with these cross listings. Performance is very low on these counters, and there is a lot more to be desired for these cross listings on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Well, regarding the performance of the USE market indices, the all share index at least dropped by 7.4 points, unfortunately, to 946 points, representing a 1 week loss of 1.45% and a 4 week loss of 4.66%. Yet an overall year-to-date loss of 21.26% has been witnessed on the all-share index. The USE Local Company Index, which tracks the average performance of the domestic listings, performed as well with an increment of 0.1% due to improvement in the prices, especially of stocks like Umeme, Bank of Baroda, and MTN Uganda, with an increment of 0.1% to reach at least 274.69 points, making it a 1 week gain now of 0.8% on the local company index. Well, that's it from Uganda Stock Exchange, but let's have a look at the details of the Airtel Uganda initial public offer. Now, Airtel Uganda Limited is a subsidiary of Airtel Africa, which is the bigger conglomerate of Airtel company. And this year, on the 31st of August, Airtel Uganda raised an IPO, or the initial public offer, which literally means the first time a company is going public to issue shares and inviting the public to buy shares into the company. Now, Airtel Uganda raised an IPO with a target of collecting 800 billion Ugandan shillings in this IPO. The company set the price for its initial public offer at 100 Ugandan shillings per share, and the offer will be up to over 20% stake, or 8 billion shares so far. Now, the initial public offer also fulfills mainly the regulatory requirements which the company has to mandatorily list for 16th December 2023, by 16th of December 2023. The offer opened on August 30th and will be closing on the 13th of October. Airtel Uganda has offered mobile telecommunications services in the country since 1995 and is currently the co-leader of the market with a 49% revenue and 47.3% subscriber market share respectively. The telecom company has over 14.3 million active subscribers across 146 districts countrywide. And for the year ended 31st December 2022, Airtel Uganda had revenues and net income of about 1.5 trillion and 888 billion respectively. When you look at the Airtel Uganda, it was previously known as Celtel, and launched the country's first mobile cellular network in 1995. Following the acquisition by Airtel Africa in 2010, June, the business was rebranded as Airtel Uganda. Now, the initial public offer gives preferences to Ugandan investors, including the country's company's customers, and to own a share at Airtel Uganda is participating in the future growth of the company. They will also be giving 5 shares to retailers for every 100 that they buy. Now, that is an offer that, according to Mr. Hannington Karuhanga, the chairman of Airtel Uganda, that every retail seller or every retailer will be having an extra 5 shares for every 100 shares they buy. And remember, the minimum amount of shares that can be bought on this initial public offer is also 100. So when you when you look at the shares they declared, they need at least about 2,500 shares for every single shareholder or someone who is buying shares. So that means you need a minimum of at least 250,000 Ugandan shillings. Now, comparing with 2021, MTN Uganda also got to list in the similar circumstances in 2021 and conducted an initial public offer at the Uganda Securities Exchange, generating over 535.94 billion. That was MTN Uganda. This amount fell short of its initial targets because this is called undersubscription, and this amounting to less than 2/3 of the projected goal. The offering saw the allocation of approximately 2.9 billion shares from the total of 4.5 billion shares that were made available. Now, the company hopes to sell the remaining shares to hit the 20% threshold as per the new government regulations before the end of 2024. So MTN Uganda listed on the exchange, and the stake was higher because the company is highly valued. And right now Airtel is looking at 800 billion shillings because they are giving away 8 billion shares. That is the 20% stake. That means that if you multiply that by 5, you have 40 billion. All right, you have 40 billion shares. That is the total number of share, or the share capital in Airtel Uganda. And according to the UCC Act amended 2020, a telecommunications company is required to issue 20% of equity, share equity, in terms of the initial public offer. Now, MTN fell short of that, lower than 2/3, after they got just about 2.9 billion shares listed instead of the 4.5 billion shares. And they're hoping that by 2024, they will be able to have this dealt with. But that's what we know about the Airtel initial public offer, to raise over to raise about $216 million US, or approximately 800 billion Ugandan shillings, as per the Uganda Securities Exchange. Well, to buy shares at Airtel, you please make sure you have understood the terms and conditions. They are, of course, options for those who are Airtel subscribers to buy using mobile money. You can still look out for such means, but make sure you've studied the prospectus which they issued, and make sure you have understood the risks therein, because this is an investment. And remember, initial public offers happen only once. There will never be another Airtel initial public offer, ever, no matter what happens. So you must take the chance. You must take the chance while it still holds. But also calculate the risk involved and make sure you are ready for whatever comes. Initial public offers, usually immediately after the initial public offer, you have the company getting to list on the main board of the exchange, and the forces of demand and supply come into play. And sometimes it's not always in your favor. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but take calculated risks, as you can read from the history of the exchange and the history of other companies elsewhere. That is the Airtel initial public offer. We can't wait to have Airtel list on the 13th of October, and we get to start to see what the telecommunications sector or industry can do on the exchange, because now we'll be having two companies on the two telecommunications companies on the exchange. That's MTN and Airtel Uganda. Well, besides that, let's have a look at Nairobi Securities Exchange and see what that day was like on Monday. Now, over about 45 equities listed on the exchange participated in Nairobi Securities Exchange trade on Monday. The day ended with 19 gainers and over 17 losers on the market. Olympia Capital Holdings led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, closing at 3.85%, 3.85 Kenyan shillings per share. And this was followed very closely by Express Kenya. And Express Kenya had a 9.86% appreciation in price. Kenya Orchards as well appreciated by 8.33%, whereas Home Africa had a 6.25% appreciation in price. On the losing side, Flame Tree Group Holdings actually came out last with an end-of-day depreciation of about 9.23% at a closing price of 1.18 Kenyan shillings per share. It was followed by Sasini Tea and Coffee at a 5.21% depreciation in price, and Elam Fahari Income Re-IT at least also lost 3.85%, and Everready East Africa lost about 3.45% on their day. Safaricom continued to record the biggest volume for the day at over 10.1 million shares that were traded. However, the stock lost some bit of value in terms of pricing. The price went under by 0.25 Kenyan shillings, down to 15.50 Kenyan shillings per share, which was a 1.59% depreciation in price comparing with the previous day as per Safaricom trading. Remember, Safaricom is the biggest equity market shareholder in terms of the markets in Nairobi Securities Exchange, and represents close to 40.5% of the entire equity market of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Currently, Safaricom is at 631 billion Kenyan shillings valuable, which makes it the most valuable company on the exchange via market capitalization on Nairobi Securities Exchange. Well, when you look at the opening price, it was 15.60, closing price 15.5. Like I said, that was a drop, a slight drop, and 139,800 volume was traded. Now, let's have a look at also the trading in the last 3 months for Safaricom. Safaricom has still maintained the first position in terms of volume, and over the past 3 months, from the 14th of June to the 11th of September, it had a total of about 486 million shares traded within the period at a value of 8.01 billion Kenyan shillings. And the highest volume was 208 million, which was achieved on the 28th of July 2023. That is Safaricom for you there. But looking elsewhere, CIC Insurance Group also recorded their high volume of close to 671,200 shares that was recorded. And KCB Group also had 291,700 shares. And Equity Group Holdings had about 166,000 shares that were recorded. Regarding the performance of the NSE market indices, the benchmark index, the all-share index, at least moved up by 0.69 points. That was to close at 99.39 points. And then you have a 1-week gain of 1.31% and a 4-week loss of 3.72%. That is as per the trade on the NSE market. Other market indices included the NSE 20 and the NSE 25. And the NSE 20 at least had about 0.17% appreciation, and the NSE 25 about 0.54%. Now we have a new NSE index, and this is the NSE 10. It tracks the top 10 stocks, which also appreciated by 0.64%. Now the Kenyan market is interesting because you have, first of all, a variety of products. You have the derivatives, you have the exchange traded funds, you have the NFTs. It's a cocktail. And that is exactly what an investor is looking for. If you are looking at investing in the stock market, you're looking for diversity. And that's exactly why I'm in love with sometimes the Kenyan markets. They give you this and that and that and that. And so you have a couple of things to choose from. You have an option to actually go into a different portfolio. You have an option to go and invest in 10 stocks at the same time, because you have indices like the NSE 10 now, tracking just 10 companies. And these 10 companies are top-notch companies by market capitalization and by trading activity. That means you have options to invest in that will return value. And if that doesn't work for you, you definitely have another product to go to. That is exactly what makes the Kenyan market very, very dynamic and interesting. Well, that's it from Nairobi. But generally speaking, the volumes were traded were about 12.1 million, and the market turnover was about 182.5 million. And this was, however, a decline of 18% in the volume and 21% decline in the turnover, comparing Monday with Friday on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. That's it from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Remember, Otex East Africa is also giving you an opportunity to trade in Safaricom. Now, Safaricom is, like I mentioned, the biggest market shareholder in the Nairobi markets. And that means they have a lot of traction, they have a lot of attention, and they have value for shareholders and customers. So Otex East Africa is giving you a chance today to invest in that particular telecommunications company. The company also just opened up branches all over Africa, with one of their latest being the Ethiopian now branch. They have a very highly competitive market there in Ethiopia, and the company is quite promising when it comes to what they're going to do in Ethiopia. So it's a good company, probably, if you would invest, but of course take my advice as advice, but it's not exactly a must that you must invest in some of these companies, because the risks are there. But of course, without risk, no glory. That is for all investors. No risk and no glory. Let's have a look at the US market as we close today. Now, all big three automakers have now submitted proposals to the United Auto Workers, as the current contract between the union, GM, Ford, and Stellantis actually inches closer to the expiration at exactly 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on the 14th of September. General expectations for a deal being reached are low, with many seeing the UAW's demands as audacious and automakers rejecting certain demands without even addressing them. Here's where the big three automakers are individually standing with the UAW, with more than over 143,000 active members ready to strike if an agreement isn't reached at the moment. Stellantis was the last big three automaker makers to submit, was the last amongst the big three to submit proposals, sending its offer sheet on Friday. And then Stellantis, which owns the US brands including Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep has put forth in an agreement that is similar to that of Ford and General Motors being submitted. That is currently what is trending in the United States at the moment. But big gains and losses still on the S&P 500 or the Standard & Poor's, which is an average or aggregate performance tracker on the United States market, and Dow Jones Industrial Average, as well as the NASDAQ. All figures seem to be in the red line right now. But we hope at the end of the day, we will have a comprehensive look at the markets before the day ends. That's it from us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for once again tuning in and for watching Smart 24 TV. Remember, I just want to remind you the Airtel IPO is still on until the 13th of October, and we will be still giving you updates on what's happening at the Airtel IPO and where the investors have actually gone, how far they have gone with their investment. My name is Anthony. Once again, I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good day.